Hey everybody, thanks for joining me. I'm Mike Drotis, Bible teacher and preacher, and you've tuned into my YouTube channel, Solving the Prophetic Puzzle. Today I want to talk about a genetic seed war that has been going on now for 6,000 years. It's between Satan and God. The battlefield is the earth, and humanity is caught right in the middle of this. Now, how did all this begin? How did Satan get his origins? Why is there a war between God and Satan? Let's go to the Bible and find out. Let's go back to the book of beginnings. Let's study this and see how this genetic seed war has continued on through generation after generation after generation, and it's going to go all the way to the end of days. Now, Lucifer was an angel. He was created before the foundation of the world. Angels were created before the earth was created. We know that because the angels rejoiced when they saw the foundation of the earth being laid by Jesus Christ, the master builder. So angels were here before the earth was created. Somewhere back in eternity past, Lucifer, who was the most anointed angel of all, was lifted up with pride. And he decided, or he thought, that he could actually take over heaven. Isaiah describes what happened in Isaiah chapter 14, verse 12. It says, "How you have fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning, how you are cut down to the ground. You have weakened the nations, for you have said in your heart, I will ascend to heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit on the mount of the congregation, on the farthest sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High." That's pride. For a created being to think that he can overthrow the Creator? That's absurd. Then it goes on in verse 15. "Yet you shall be brought down to Sheol, to the lowest parts of the pit." That was what happened to Satan in eternity past. Satan and 1/3 of the angels attempted a coup. God overthrew that coup and cast Satan down to the earth. Now Satan is here on the earth. He doesn't live in hell. He's on the earth. He's actually the prince of the power of the air. His confines are the atmosphere above the earth. He cannot go no further. He cannot go into the heavenly heavens, into the throne room of God. He cannot go there anymore. He's been brought down to this earth. Now, while he was on this earth, he began to observe things. You see, angels are created beings. They're eternal beings. Angels are not humans. Humans are not angels. You do not die and become an angel. You're either an angel or a human. Angels have different attributes. They have great strength. They have great intellect. They have free will. They can decide on matters. They are not robots. But they do not have God living on the inside of them. We, humanity, humans, are fearfully and wonderfully made. We are the crown jewel of creation. And we have this treasure in earthen vessels. Christ in us, the hope of glory. We are, in a sense, walking, talking arks of the covenant. God loved man so much that he created the entire world for him. Years, though, before the creation of the world, when Lucifer was cast out, he was cast down to heaven with 1/3 of his angels, and he began to observe things. He began to observe what was going on. He watched. The Old Testament actually calls them the watchers. As Satan was cast down to earth, God began to create things on the earth, and on the 6th day he created man. God told the fallen angels, leave the humans alone. Don't tamper with them. Don't speak to them. Only watch them. Satan and his fallen angels began to watch what was going on. They watched how God created Adam. They watched how God formed Adam out of the clay and out of the earth. And then God lifted this creation up and breathed into Adam the life of God, the life breath of God going into Adam. He saw Adam become this glorified being made in God's image. Then he saw how God took out of Adam a rib and created Eve from the side of Adam. And this couple was given dominion and authority over the entire earth. Satan didn't like that. His fallen angels didn't like that. They wanted to rule and reign on this planet. So Satan hatched a plan. He realized that if he could get Adam to sin, to commit high treason against God, that God would probably just leave him alone after that point in time. So Satan convinced Adam to sin, to eat from the tree, the forbidden tree of the knowledge of good and evil. When Adam ate from that tree, he fell. He died, as God said, if you will eat from this tree, you will surely die. Adam died that day, the day that he partook of the fruit from the knowledge of the tree of good and evil. He died. He died spiritually, instantaneously, and physically he would die 900 and some years later. He would die in every possible way. He was separated from God. He lost the glory of God. He found himself naked. And he tried to cover himself with fig leaves. And then God provided skins of an animal, an innocent animal that he's slain for Adam's sin. Satan then became God of this world. But God had a plan. God wasn't going to leave his creation. God wasn't going to leave humanity. God wasn't going to leave Adam, his first creation. God would not leave them. Instead, he would come up with a plan. He would come up with a way. And as God begins to talk to Adam and Eve and Lucifer or Satan at that point in time about the consequences of what happened, he tells them something that is very interesting. He actually gives them the pronouncement, I'm not leaving, I'm staying, and in fact, I'm going to provide a way to buy back humanity. In Genesis chapter 3, as he's speaking to the partakers of this deed that has happened, how mankind has fallen from the grace of God and how Satan now has become the God of this age. He's talking to them in Genesis chapter 3, verse 14. Because you have done this, he's talking to Satan, you are cursed more than all the cattle and more than every beast of the field. On your belly you shall go, and you shall eat dust all the days of your life. He's talking to the serpent at that time. Then he declares in verse 15, and I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. He's talking to Satan here. He's saying there will be enmity between the woman's seed and your seed. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. We can see something here really early in the book of Genesis. There will be enmity between the seed of woman and the seed of Satan. Isn't that interesting? The seed of Satan. Then God gets specific, and he uses the pronoun he. He shall bruise or crush your head, and you shall bruise his heel. So who is the he? Satan has to know who is the he. He didn't know. At first, he watched Adam and Eve as they had sons, and then he noticed that there was a son that seemed to be in right standing with God. His name was Abel. He was giving sacrifices to God. God was accepting those sacrifices. So Satan began to work in the family, and he caused Cain to kill his brother. He thought, that's the chosen seed. I'll get rid of him. Then I'll have everything I ever wanted on this earth, and I'll rule mankind, and God will leave them alone. That wasn't the seed that God was talking about. So Satan had to continue to watch humanity. He watched, and as humanity began to populate the earth, Satan realized he had to do something to stop it. Then he came up with a great idea, a diabolical idea. He can't go around killing every person who's born, every male child that is born, that could be the potential that would crush his head. But what he could do is he could corrupt all humanity. If he corrupted all humanity, God would certainly leave them alone. But how? He thought to himself, how do I corrupt humanity? How do I make sure that God would not want to have anything to do with humanity? I have to corrupt them. And then he realized, I have to corrupt them genetically. I have to corrupt them genetically through their DNA. If I can distort or corrupt or pollute their DNA, They would no longer be what God created them to be. They would be something totally, absolutely different, and God would turn his back on humanity for sure at that point. And in Genesis chapter 6, we read exactly how all this begins to unfold. Now it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth and daughters were born to them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were beautiful, and they took wives for themselves of all whom they choose. And the Lord said, My spirit shall not strive with man forever, for he is indeed flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. There were giants on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God came to the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. These were the mighty men who are of old, men of renown. Then the Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every intent of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And the Lord was sorry that he had made man on the earth. He was grieved in his heart. Satan had corrupted the gene pool. There are fallen angels, sons of God. You can read in Job chapter 38 that Lucifer brought the sons of God into the throne room of heaven. These same sons of God began to look at human females, and they began to intermarry with them and create offspring that was not human. It was half human, half fallen angel. Nephilim, as some reports account for it. Now I'd like to read to you from the book of Enoch. Enoch chapter 6. Enoch was the seventh from Adam. He was a prophet of God. He's mentioned about 24 times in the Bible. And in Enoch's book, in chapter 6, he writes, And it came to pass when the children of men have multiplied, that in those days were born unto them beautiful and comely daughters. And the angels, the children of heaven, saw and lusted after them, and said to one another, Come, let us choose us wives from among the children of men, and beget us children. And Semjaz, who was their leader, said unto them, I fear you will not indeed agree to do this thing, and I alone shall have to pay the penalty of a great sin. And they all answered him and said, Let us all swear an oath and bind ourselves by mutual imprecation, not to abandon this plan, but to do this thing. Then they swore all together and bound themselves by mutual imprecations upon it. And they were in all 200. And they descended on Jared, on the summit of Mount Hermon, and they called it Mount Hermon because they had sworn and bound themselves by mutual imprecation upon it. So these 200 angels decided to leave their heavenly estate, to come and begin to tamper with humanity. They took wives. They began to corrupt all of humanity. They took wives and they had children, and these offspring were giants. Chapter 7. And all the others together with them took unto themselves wives, and each chose for himself one. And they began to go into them and defile themselves with them. And they taught them charms and enchantments and cutting of roots, and made them acquainted with plants. And they became pregnant. And they bare great giants, whose height was 3,000 ells, who consumed all the acquisitions of men. And when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured mankind. And they began to sin against birds and beasts and reptiles and fish, and to devour one another's flesh and drink the blood. Then the earth laid accusation against the lawless ones. This was what it was like in the days of Noah. All the earth had been corrupted by these 200 fallen angels who left their heavenly estate and began to intermarry and interbreed with humans. And then they went even further and began to tamper with all the animals, with all of creation. It worked. Verse 7 of Genesis chapter 6. Now we go back to Genesis 6. So the Lord said, I will destroy man whom I created from the face of the earth, both man and beast and creeping things and birds of the air, for I am sorry that I made them. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. So Noah found grace. This is the genealogy of Noah. He was a just man, perfect in his generation. Noah walked with God, and Noah begat 3 sons. Verse 11, the earth also was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. So God looked upon the earth, and indeed it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted their way on the earth. Satan's plan worked. It almost worked. He corrupted the DNA of humanity. He corrupted all creation. He ruined earth. He ruined God's masterpiece. But God found one man, Noah, who was not corrupted. It says he was perfect in his generation. It was the only thing that God could do then was to take Noah, to remove Noah from the earth, to remove Noah from the coming judgment, and he had to destroy the entire earth. Satan had contaminated humanity, and it could not be reversed. Satan had contaminated creation, and it could not be reversed. God had to wipe it all out. And then he removed Noah and his family to safety before he wiped everything out. Now that brings us to today. Jesus said that right before the end of the age, right before he returned, that they would be as if the days of Noah. Look at Matthew chapter 24. I just explained to you what the days of Noah were like. Fallen angels had corrupted the DNA of humanity through intermarrying with females. They had offspring. They were giants that were destroying the whole earth. They tampered with all of creation and destroyed everything and made it something that it was not created to be. In Genesis chapter 24, Jesus says these words, "But as the days of Noah were, so also will be the coming of the Son of Man." Same thing. As we draw close to the end of the age, Satan is going to work his plan again. He will try to corrupt humanity's gene pool once again, but he's going to make some adjustments this time. No fallen angel that's left is going to want to do what those first 200 did, because they intermarried with humanity. They intermarried with females. They have thus disobeyed God's prime directive, as you say. They disobeyed God's prime directive. They tampered with humanity, and they have now been placed in prison, awaiting judgment. They're off the board. You could read about that in Jude and 1 Peter. They're all out of the game. They're waiting, incarcerated in some prison, waiting for their judgment to be cast into the lake of fire. So no angel's going to do that again. No fallen angel will do that. And Satan's thinking, I don't even want to use fallen angels' DNA. I want to use my own DNA. He has to get his Luciferian DNA into humanity. When he does that, he will actually have his own seed being implanted into humanity. He will not only be their God, but he would be their father. But how does Satan get his DNA into humanity? Not like the last time. He knows explicitly that God said, if you intermarry with humans, you are removed from the game. He won't do it that way. He has to do something else. Thus, we come to the end of age, Revelation chapter 13. Revelation chapter 13, if you study your Bibles, you already know where I'm headed. This is what the Bible refers to as the mark of the beast. In Revelation chapter 13, verse 14, I'll read just a few verses. "And he deceived those who dwell on the earth by signs, which was granted to him to do sight of the beast, telling those who dwell on the earth to make an image of the beast, who was wounded by the sword and lived. He was granted power to give breath to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. He causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads, that no one may buy or sell except one who has the mark of the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here's wisdom, letting him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. His number is 666. We're talking about not just simply a tattoo that can be wiped off with a little bit of alcohol. There is going to come a day in the last of the last days where Satan will incarnate the Antichrist. The Antichrist then will become what is known as the beast. The beast will then cause people to receive a mark on their hand. This is no simple tattoo. It will be more like a scratching or an etching. It will get under the skin. Once it's inside a human, they are forever doomed, because it will genetically begin to alter them, and they too will become like the beast. They will be sons of Satan. They will be seed of Satan. And they have no recourse at that point. Look at Revelation chapter 14, verse 9. "Then a third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if anyone worships the beast or his image and receives his mark on his forehead or on his hand, he himself shall also drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out full strength unto the cup of his indignation. He shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. There is no turning back. Once an individual accepts the mark of the beast, he is forever doomed. In fact, he's not even what God created him to be. He's been changed. That's why there's no repentance. And this is what I think that Jesus was talking about when he said that right before he comes back, it will be like the days of Noah. There's a seed war that's going on now, and it's going to ramp up as we draw closer and closer to the end of the age. Now, the good news is this: humanity has a chance. Every person can accept salvation through Christ, and they too will be changed. You see, when you're born again, you're changed as well. 2 Corinthians 5:17 says, "Therefore, if any man be in Christ, he is a new creation. Old things have passed away. Behold, all things are new." That word new means that you are a new species, as though you never existed before. Ecclesiastes 3:11 says, God placed eternity inside of every man, inside of every human. And then 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 23 says, "We have been born again, not of corruptible seed, but of incorruptible, through the word of God, which lives and abides forever." There is an incorruptible seed that is placed inside of every human when they are born again. And I'll close with this. At the new birth, we have what I call the rapture, resurrection gene, and it's laying there dormant until we are born again. Then it becomes turned on through the incorruptible seed of God that 1 Peter talks about. Now, as this rapture, resurrection gene has been turned on, we are in a state of readiness for the mass exodus of the rapture, just like in the days of Noah. Right before, as the earth is being contaminated and corrupted genetically, God is going to, this time, rapture us. We're going up. As the wrath came down, the ark went up and went away, and they were taken to safety. So too, at the rapture, at the end of the age, we will be raptured. Before the wrath of God, before the trumpet judgments, before the bowl judgments, we will be raptured. Just as in the days of Noah. Hey, thanks for watching. I really appreciate you staying along for such a long video today. I'm going to get deeper and deeper into this. I just can't say everything I want at one time. So if you haven't liked or subscribed yet, please do. If you've already subscribed, don't hit subscribe again, because actually that unsubscribes you. So check to see if you are subscribed. That way you can get updates every week as I do 2 messages, usually a week, about the end times, the rapture, or whatever the Lord leads me at that time. If you have a prayer request, please post it or email me. And don't forget to take a look at my books, Waiting for the Rapture, The Search for Truth, and Jacob's Trouble and the Elect. They're great books if you like end-time novels. Hey, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time as we continue to keep looking up. Jesus Christ is coming soon. God bless you.